How's it going, everybody? Today we are going to be taking a look at the Yakima OverHaul HD truck bed ladder rack and how it fits on a 2021 Ford F-150. This is going to be an adjustable system, so if you work in a job or you need a little bit of longer loads, something like ladders, lumber, anything that's going to extend over the top or past the tailgate of your vehicle, you can get that up there. Or on the sports and recreation side of things, if you want to get a kayak, ski and snowboard carriers, maybe you want to lower this down and use it with a bike rack, make that more accessible. All of those options are available to you using the system. So let's take a closer look at how it works. Starting first with our crossbars, we can see here at the end on our end caps, we have this opening available, this post where you can strap things down, tie your items to your crossbars. We also have a T-track channel in the crossbars as well as this weather strip. So if you're not using anything with the T-track, that weather strip will help cut down on some of that whistling. Or if you are using those T-track accessories, this is an option for you. The crossbars are heavy duty, so they are a little bit thicker, but it's going to help you support more weight, and most of your clamp-on accessories are still going to be able to wrap around and hold securely there. Moving down now, we have our towers, which are adjustable, but you will have to loosen up your crossbars, and we'll take a closer look at that during the install portion. But in our case, we have them at the maximum height. Here on the inside, we have another anchor point for you to strap more things down to, as well as a bottle opener. And on the inside, we do have a couple of different openings for different rails, so we can put those rails in there and increase the storage capacity of the system. Moving down to the bases, they are designed in such a way that you can remove the entire tower system as well as the crossbars if you just want to leave the bases on, but you don't want the added height of your ladder rack system. You don't have to remove everything, which is nice. The clamps can be a little bit difficult, especially if you have a bed liner like we have here, but you'll see that during the install portion. And on one of each set of our ladder rack system, we do have a lock core. So if you lock this up, no one will be able to remove the base pads and just take the ladder rack. Another benefit to having these pads, if you do get the Retrax XR tonneau cover, there is an adapter kit that allows you to actually use this ladder rack system with a tonneau cover, which a lot of people have gotten this and done, and they've had a lot of success, and they really enjoy being able to get items up on top and protect the items on the inside of your bed. The ladder rack system is made of aluminum. It's got a nice black powder coat finish, so it's going to be really durable, especially up in the elements where it's going to be. It's going to be able to hold up really well to rust and corrosion. And just because of how it's designed, it is capable to support 500 pounds of on-road weight capacity. If you want to take this off-roading, that weight capacity is going to drop down to 300 pounds. Because the ladder rack is adjustable from 19 inches to 30 inches, at its maximum point, it will be sitting up 30 inches from the rails of your bed, which in our case does add a little bit of height to our overall vehicle. So just giving you an idea of how much that's going to be from the top of the roof to the top of the crossbars, it's going to be roughly about 10.5 inches. So that's the number you want to keep in mind as far as, can I leave this on in my garage or anywhere that there might be some clearance issues. First thing we want to do for the install is just lay everything out to make sure we know where and what everything is. So right now I'm holding the 68-inch heavy-duty crossbars. We're going to need this for the system. We have the towers, we have the bases, we have the clamps that'll hold the bases in place, 2 of these metal plates, we have our 4, 6, and 10 millimeter Allen keys respectively, our lock core and our keys that are going to work with them, hardware that's going to keep the crossbars in place, and I do recommend just including a tape measure because we will have a couple of measurements to get throughout, but our first step is going to be preparing our crossbars, so let's get that out of the way. To prepare our crossbars, the first thing I need to do is remove this 4 millimeter bolt using that Allen key I talked about at the beginning. So we'll just loosen this up till it unthreads. We'll turn the whole thing over just to get it out. Move this end cap off, and now we're going to use these 2 metal plates that I talked about at the beginning. Slide those through, and now we'll just replace the end cap and the bolt. With our crossbars all set up with those base plates, we're going to now move on to the base pads. So as you can see, we already have the front of our system set up. So one of these will be locking and one of these will be non-locking. You can tell which one is locking because it has this post which the lock core is going to live on. So make sure you get one of each, and we'll get them roughly in place for now. When putting your base plates down, there are just a few things that you're going to want to consider. First and foremost being the spread of your system overall. So what are you planning to get up here? Is it going to be ladders, kayaks? How much crossbar spread are you going to need? The second thing is, especially if you have a liner like we have here, do you have room under and behind your rails for the clamps to exist? So if we wanted to go somewhere like here, we can't, because the clamp can't get under there. So we have to move further over so our clamp can get down in there, and we can actually accommodate that in the channel on our base. So those are a couple of things you want to keep in mind before you pick a spot. With our pads where we want them to be, I'm just going to drop one of these square washers in the channel. Then I will fit our clamp up and underneath, and I'm just going to drop this bolt in there, find where they line up, and hand thread it in as far as I can. This is where the install gets a little bit tricky. This is probably the most difficult part of the whole process. Just finding a place where everything lines up and these bolts actually want to thread. So we have this one in now. We're just going to leave it pretty loose for now because we might be shifting things around a little bit as we move. But we'll do the other clamp now and just drop that square washer in again. You can leave the bolt in for now if you want to, but I kind of like to try to line up my clamps first. So right about there looks good. Drop that bolt down and in place. And then we'll thread that one in as well. Now we'll double check that we're where we want to be. So I just measured from the end of the base here to where our tailgate sits. I found a measurement of 7 inches, so we're still there. And now I'm going to use that 10mm Allen key to start to tighten everything down. Unfortunately, the bases are sort of top heavy, so if I were to let it go, it wants to lean. So I do kind of have to hold it with my left hand the whole time, which is why I want to get one of them roughly in place, and now I can let go and tighten them both down fully. So just repeat that process with the other base. Again, making sure that one of them is locking, one of them is non-locking, and make sure you get the same measurement for both, however you choose to find that number. And the process will be the same thing. Just as a general rule of thumb, when you're tightening down those clamps, you want to use these channels built in on the bases to try to get them as far apart as you possibly can, just to increase the weight distribution and the amount of force that we're putting on those bolts. But in the case of ours, especially underneath, we have this plastic portion where our liner is sticking in, so we couldn't actually move our clamps down that far. So we got them as far as we could, which is likely going to be the case for you. But from this point, I'm going to use the 4mm Allen key to start to loosen up this bolt here at the end to get our bases ready to accept our towers. So from that point, I'll just hand thread it or unthread it. You can see that this base is starting to open up. And then we'll repeat that process for the other side using the 6mm Allen key. From here, we can get our towers in. It's super straightforward. Just make sure, obviously, that they line up with the plates that are down. And we want them facing inward towards our other rack. So just set them in that base, just like that. And I'm gonna hand thread this bolt until we get to the point where I can't. And then just like the step before, but in reverse, I'm gonna get that 4mm Allen key and tighten the bolt up the rest of the way. And then we'll repeat this process again on the other side using that 6mm bolt. From here, we're going to raise the towers up to our desired height, which is actually their maximum height. As you can see with our front crossbar system, that gives us plenty of clearance over our roof, and it also just kind of provides an example of how high it can go. So to do that, we're going to need to loosen up all 4 of these bolts on our tower here. There's 2 in the front and 2 in the back. Right now I have that 6mm Allen key again. So we'll just loosen these all up until we get to the point where the towers can slide freely. And you definitely want to do this before you get your crossbars on because of how the system works. Anytime you want to adjust up or down, you are going to have to loosen up those crossbars. And then with everything loosened up, it's free to move, and we'll keep it at that maximum height. And we really just need to tighten one of them down at first just to make it stay. And then I can let go with my other hand and finish tightening up all these bolts. And just like before, we're going to repeat this process with the other side. This time we can just use the same Allen key throughout. Now, since we already have our crossbars prepared, I'm going to put this back one on roughly where I think it should go. And then I'm going to use the built-in ruler on the bottom of our crossbar to line it up so we get the same number on both sides. So in our case, we need to slide it down just a little bit. And then from here, we'll flip it over, double check our measurements, and then we'll get those bolts installed. To prepare our bolts, I'm just going to put the split or lock washer on first, and then put the flat washer on next. And now we're ready to get those installed to our crossbars. From here, I like to start with this front bolt, and I just slide this plate along the track and wait for it to sort of catch where I have that bolt already in there. So right about there, and then I just hand thread that one in to get the system roughly started. And now I'm just gonna leave that one, and I'm gonna go to the other side and do the same thing. For the next bolt in the back, I like to use the tool to actually fit it up in that channel. Otherwise, it's really hard to get that initial thread in. And since we already went through the process of getting both of the first bolts installed, this one should line up super easily. Trying to get this one first is really difficult. So again, we'll just repeat this process on the other side. Our final step is just going to be getting this lock core on and in place. So lines right up with that post. Fit that into place. Use the provided key. Lock it up. You're good to go. Once you're happy with where everything is, if you've gone back and tightened everything up, you've got your lock cores in place. My final step is just to give it a shake test, and they both feel really solid and really sturdy. So we're installed and we're ready to hit the road. Overall, this system is going to be really useful for a wide variety of people and a wide variety of things that you want to carry, whether that's for the work side of things or for the sports and rec side of things. With that weight capacity of 500 on-road and 300 off-road, you have different options of when and where to use it as well. And with the different heights, you can pick and choose what you want to put on there, make it easier to access, or get it above the cab of your vehicle. And just because of how it's built and what it's made of, it's going to be really durable and last for a long period of time. So I think it's a really nice option for you if you want to get some larger loads on your vehicle. This again was just a quick look at the Yakima OverHaul HD truck bed ladder rack, how it fits on our 2021 Ford F-150.